How preventing overreacting helps our families. That's the topic of today's pressure-free living. I was thinking about how a few years ago I was working with a woman who came to me really to optimize her well-being and her abilities at work. And at the end of our first session, she said, Elle, this is going to help my family for generations to come. We're coming up on Father's Day, and so that her words, they've resonated in my head or reverberated in my head for years now. It made me reflect on me and my overreactions. So I'm going to go to myself for a moment because I honestly wasn't aware of all of the ways I was overreacting until 2010. Like I just didn't see it. I was blind to it. I thought I was a pretty calm professional. I thought that I was running my family really well, like doing everything that a good mom's supposed to do and making sure everybody's in where they need to be and all of that. But when I look back and see the difference between me on stress hormones and me not on stress hormones, such an amazing change when it comes to reactions. Let me see if I can give you some ideas of that. So I used to just be I'm a very structured person, so I wanted everything done at a certain time, a certain way. It's like I put my own rules on everyone else. And so if those situations were not going well, um, I would put a lot of pressure on myself to right it. Um, I would I would be very impatient, very snippy. Um, running a symphony like I did, you're producing a show and it's got a lot of people involved. You've got your board members, your volunteers, your donors that don't, and then all the audience members, and then you have the orchestra, the conductor, the guest artist, making sure everybody's fed and taken care of, and like all the things you need to do. And so I look back and I'm like, wow, I was pretty calm. And I even had told people tell me, oh, you're so calm backstage. You've got everything under control. I'm like, lift up the hood. Let's lift up the hood for a moment and see if you can start to notice your overreactions. They can be subtle, but even just the change in the tone of our voice when we go into fight or flight can cause someone else to trigger the stress response. So what my client was thinking about in that very first coaching session was that because she was going to not be overreacting so much, that was going to change the health and well-being of her entire family, her spouse, her kids. She could see how it was going to change at work, but to see how it was going to change in the family was just a really big light bulb. And that's what happened in our family. When I stopped overreacting, other people stopped overreacting because there tends to be here, I have this phrase. I say, misery doesn't just love company, it demands it. It really demands it. So when we're a little bit whacked out, we want other people to be just as whacked out. Like if I can't find my car keys, I want everyone else to be as frenzied looking for my car keys as I am. That's a simple example, but I watch it happen all the time. When I'm calm and I'm deliberately looking for my calm keys, looking for my car keys, I might not even mention it to the rest of the family. I'm just staying level-headed and doing the search, and sure enough, I'll find them. Actually, it happened to me the other day. My house keys, I put in a little fanny pack and not in my normal place in my purse. Couldn't find them at first. So I started to feel the rise in me, right? Like I want to get out the door and I can't find my keys. But I relax my, in fact, the moment I say, even talk about it, share it right here with you right now, like I feel my belly tense. I feel my body get into this like, roar, I want to find my keys. So instead, I backed off of that. I relax my belly. I'm like, okay, so Then I asked the question, where did I last have my keys? And instantly I remembered we played mini golf to celebrate my husband's birthday party, our birthday, with my son and daughter-in-law. So, oh, they're in my fanny pack, right? So instantly my mind searched and found it. Here's what happens when we go into fight or flight, though. When we're in fight or flight, we can't remember where the keys are. We can't. This whole outer brain is somewhat shut down. So, like, we can't go through, oh, where was I last night? It's more difficult. Let me put it that way. We can kind of go through it, but it's going to be more difficult. It's going to take more time. And that time is going to get you more frustrated. So anytime you feel frustration or annoyance, see, this is what I didn't know. Those two feelings can cause you to trigger the stress response. Once I figured that out in 2010, I just started making lists of all the things that annoyed me. It was a pretty long list, I'll be honest with you. It was a pretty long list. And there's still many things that I'm still discovering, little annoyances, that definitely can trigger the stress response for me. And then I asked this question, and this is a question that I go pretty deeply on with my clients, but is it worth messing up your body and your mind for hours, having you be under the influence of these chemicals in our body, these stress hormones that are literally taking us out from being our best selves, from being our true selves? Is that really worth doing for the fact that I can't find my keys right now? The answer I came up with when I asked that question, every single time I started to feel the tension, was no, it's not. It is not worth it. It's not worth it. I spoke the other day about longevity and how I have now got my number of how long I want to live. And it's not an age. It's that I want to live long enough to know all of my grandchildren for them to be the age of 10 before I pass on this earth. Like, I would like to know all of them by the age of 10. That's going to be a long while from now. So I don't know how many grandchildren I'll have. I now have two, which is pretty exciting. Two on the same day. So go figure. But it's interesting to me um how the old me would have easily justified and rationalized getting upset that I couldn't find my keys. That's only because my brain was in stress mode. And in stress mode, I'm desperate to find the reasons why. I'm desperate to justify and rationalize my anger, my annoyance. So that all starts to clear up the more and more pressure free you become. I use that word very actively, like it is an adjective. And people will say that. My clients will say, wow, I stayed pressure free in this hard situation. What does that mean? They didn't release these stress hormones. That means all of this worked for them. When they say we only use 10% of our brain, I think that that changes once you understand how to interrupt the stress response. I think that massively changes. I've had people tell me that the things they can do with their brain now are almost miraculous. Like memorizing music in minutes or seconds that used to take them months. Like being so tuned in to another human that you're able to have just really incredible conversations. You're so present. We talk about being present, and people will try to do it through all these other things. But if you've triggered the stress response, you're not fully present, no matter what. And I think that was another thing that my client in that very first session recognized. She recognized that by not triggering the stress response, she was going to be present for her children, which means she's going to be able to teach her children this method as well, even just through her own actions. Because we imitate, as children, we imitate our parents, our caregivers. So it's really important if you're bringing your child to a daycare to someone else while you're because you have to work, you maybe you're a single parent or both parents need to work, like making sure that the people that are with your children are really of quality. I would love to teach every single daycare worker pressure free. that would change the world. That would change the world. Because pretty much anytime a baby cries, um, humans trigger the stress response. You can learn not to, of course, but it's interesting to note, and you can note just by how you are. So sometimes people say, m moms, when they first have children, are just like they're in brain fog. They're like, well, what it is it's a constant triggering of the stress response. You're now responsible for another tiny, helpless little human. That's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. So that client I was coaching, she actually had another child, and so I'm sure she was very different in that pregnancy than her previous ones because she understood this. We actually learn how to go into fight or flight when we're inside our moms, when we're in utero. Isn't that crazy? Um, so back to this idea of our particular overreactions and how they affect the rest of the family. This is true if you live with a pet. Maybe you live alone with a pet. Doesn't matter what the pet is, it's picking up on your vibe and it's picking up on your way of being and whether you've triggered these hormones or not. Our dogs used to go crazy when someone came to the door at our house, bark, 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 like most dogs do, right? But once our family became pressure free, and I didn't even realize this until the client saw it. So a client came to my home studio for a session, and they knocked on the door. I came to the door. I opened the door, and both of our dogs were lying in front of the fireplace. We had a fireplace insert. We heated with wood a few of our rooms in our house, and the dogs were just lying there. They they lifted their heads and they looked at the new person coming in, but they did not bark. They didn't even get up. That was because I wasn't overreacting to the doorbell. I was calm. I just went over to the door and they picked up on that signal. So if you have animals who react, they're overreacting to something. That's just a clue. That's just a clue. The more and more pressure free you are, the more and more pressure free your pets will be, the more and more pressure free your spouse will be, your children will be. A lot of times people come and work with me and they kind of do it in secret. They don't tell their spouse what they're up to. I encourage them to. I actually encourage them to like print out what I'm sharing, or, I give all my clients all my books, like leave the book out because it'd be very cool if they just kind of pick it up and figure out, oh, this is what's going on because we will change. When we learn this method, we change. And sometimes that change is disconcerting to our partners because it's like we're not reacting to the things that we used to. And people like to push our buttons. I did a show on that. Like people like to push our buttons. So if they push a button and we don't react that way, then it's like they're confused. So I always encourage my clients, make sure you share a bit with whom you live with because it will be confusing when you're changing. This is the case with my husband. We were sitting at a baseball game, 2010, and watching our kids, and he said something to me that normally would get a little rise out of me, and I'd be concerned. And I just turned and smiled and said, "Oh yeah, we can deal with that. That'll go fine." And he was so nonplussed by it, he actually got up and took a big walk all the way around the field. And then later he said, "I think I need to know." And by the way, he was like editing my initial workbook I was working on. And he goes, "I think I need a session. Like you're giving all these other people a session." He goes, "I think I need a session." And that made it clear to him why I didn't have this reaction when he said something to me. So my tip for you today is just start to notice when you might be overreacting to something. Just and do it really gently. Like don't beat yourself up, but just kind of notice, oh yeah, I overreact when somebody loads the dishwasher a different way, or when somebody cuts me off on the highway. Somebody's riding my butt on the highway. That's that. I used to get so annoyed by that. I definitely triggered a little bit of road rage, if you will. if somebody was right on my tail. I had somebody right on my tail the other day, and I just kind of smiled. I'm like, well, they'll pass me if they want to, right? They're in a hurry. I grew up with the 2 second rule in New Hampshire. You got to give 1,001, 1,002 between any sign of signpost and the car in front of you. And hopefully they do it behind you because it takes that long to stop if there's an immediate stop. Put your hazards on. I have all these little tricks I do because that's a thing for me. Once you've ever been rear-ended, we were rear-ended by a guy who wasn't even looking up. He was looking down, didn't even put his brakes on, and we were at a stoplight. I mean, it was incredible. So, like, once you have that experience, it can cause you to be very almost paranoid about the people behind you when you're driving. And so luckily I figured out how to stay relaxed and I have all these things I do. I will even beat my horn. Like I had a woman crest over hill going way fast and I was behind a farm tractor. So like what am I gonna do? So I went bump, 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 like the train whistle. She looks up, she's on her phone. She looks up and ends up like squealing around into the dirt on the side of the road, like coming up beside us because she's going so fast. Then pulls back behind. I pass the farm tractor. She passes the farm tractor. Then she passes me and she's one hand on the steering going, I'm so sorry. Like this. I'm like, oh my God. I just prayed that she got where she was going okay. So not overreacting. I did not overreact that day. It was really cool to see that I didn't overreact. I didn't even trigger the stress response when I saw it was happening. I just asked the right question. How can I stop her? And the thing I came up with was bump, 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 bump. Pretty crazy. Anyway, just stay open to noticing your overreactions. And this is amazing how literally learning this method can create a ripple effect for everyone at work, everyone in your family, and it can pay dividends for generations to come, just like my client said. And of course, I wish you a great pressure-free day. Bye.